The Iranians are saying that this is not the same situation as June of last year, and that if there is a war this time, it's going to be bigger. In the past, Americans repeatedly made threats in their statements, saying that all options are on the table, and all options include the option of war. Now, this man also keeps claiming that they have sent aircraft carriers and so on. In my view, the Iranian nation should not be frightened by such things. The people of Iran are not influenced by this kind of talk. We are not the initiators of war. We do not want to oppress anyone or attack any country. But in response to anyone who seeks to attack, the Iranian nation will deliver a strong blow. Americans should also know that if they start a war this time, it will be a regional war. Is this just bluster from a weak foe? Or do you think he actually means it? Oh, he means it. And again, Iranians are not stupid by any, stretch of imagination. They are pretty savvy people, and very talented people, actually. And the point is that he knows that it's Israel behind that Trump being essentially the president or vice president of Israel, he is trying to do whatever he needs to especially cover up the new dump of the Epstein files or what have you. And so Iranian thing, is going to be on the forefront for a while. And Netanyahu is pushing Trump, and he's blackmailing him. And so what can I say? First, Israel begged last time for United States to somehow, and Netanyahu called also Moscow to stop this 12-day-long beating of Israel in the bloody pulp. This time, especially when you look attentively at what have been done, for example, at the Navatim base in Israel, which was essentially, wiped out. And this time it could be indeed very, very serious because Iran has the range for on every pretty much any U.S. base in the region. So in order to fight this war, and Trump cannot afford to have even a single coffin wrapped into their, red, white, and blue. And so they have to essentially evacuate all those bases because they will get it. And the United States doesn't have viable air defense. Anybody who talks about Patriot Pact 3, I mean, oh, God, it's for the housewives. Pardon my French, of course. Nothing wrong against housewives. I respect or love them. But the point is that that's the issue. They don't understand that United States will sustain serious losses. Forget about Israel, which will be probably pummeled into the utter submission. And it doesn't matter how many thoughts or whatever the remaining patriots they will put in. They will not be able to intercept their properly constructed or composed salvas, which will provide a variety of leakers. Leakers being the missiles or any kind of projectiles which go through the air defense, and that will deal a serious damage, including, God forbid, there will be losses, there will be casualties, and they will be serious. So let me ask you something. There was earlier on Fox News today, there was someone who considers themselves an expert on this, Rebecca Grant. Gary, if you can play that one. We didn't talk about it earlier, but if we can pull that one up from this morning, she was laying out the argument that we have a tremendous amount of air defense power in the region. Iran is taking a really big risk because Trump's armada ensures that Iran basically has no military options left. And make no mistake, President Trump is ready for action. If they go, we know there's a pre-briefed target set. It's probably ballistic missile sites, maybe leadership targets. But right now, it is the pressure on Iran to agree to negotiations, which is what President Trump says he wants to do. As you can see on this map, those assets are already in place. This is a massive amount of sea-based air and missile defense. There's also land-based missile defense, too. But you're looking at destroyers in the Eastern Med ready to do a nose-on shot against Iranian missiles or drones. Destroyers down in the Persian Gulf, more destroyers. And the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln over there in the NAG, the North Arabian Gulf. Incredible. This is like a golden dome of missile defense over our U.S. forces. Incredible. A golden dome over, yeah. What do you say to that? Well, she is together with all those Rand Corporation, Lexington Institute for the Study of War. This is a blob of the imbeciles with all nonsensical degrees in national security studies or what have you, political science, So all those bureaucrats who at some point of time worked on in Congress, they have no freaking clue about what air defense is. They wouldn't understand what are the coefficients of the coverage, what are the probabilities of the intercepts, which for United States air defense complexes like PATI has already stated. The deputy commander of the Russian airspace forces stated PAC-3 cannot defend itself. Forget about defending anything else. And again, even the previous generation of the ballistic missiles, which Iran has, many people throw this term like hypersonic, all ballistic missiles of the intermediate range are hypersonic, and some tactical ballistic missiles are hypersonic when entering atmosphere. So she's propagandist. And when you look at Answer, this blob in Washington, D.C., majority of them are downright impiles. They don't understand what modern technological paradigm is. They don't understand how the real wars are fought, and as the result go and ask anybody in Lexington Institute, or whatever, Rand, do you know how Salva model actually works? Do you know what the embellished Salva equations are? Because they fit perfectly into, there are actually models of the air defense combat. They will say, no, nothing, because they drank this Kool-Aid from Ukraine that, factory intercepted hypersonic weapons and things like that. Those people exist in the alternative universes. They don't have background in anything related to the Syrian. And as a result, they go, folks, come on. I mean, they know Trump listens to them. And as a result, Trump watches Fox. So they spew this BS, and people consume it. And what can I say? I'm not in the propaganda. My task is to show, okay, here is, for example, U.S. Navy. This is what is great, about it. This is where the strong points are, like U.S. Navy's nuclear power submarine force, which is still top-notch world class, despite the pro problems with the nuclear deterrent. And so, but speaking about what SM-6 can intercept a Mach 12 maneuvering warhead from missile, I don't think so. Well, see, here's the problem. Andre, is that if it's just the type of Rebecca Grant, a talking head on Fox News or whatever, that's one thing. But just before we came on the air here, I talked to somebody who has access to some of the higher levels in the Pentagon. And I asked this question specifically about the air defense capacity in the event that Iran made good on its threat and did attack some of the U.S. bases. And he told me that a number of the senior military officials do not believe that the missiles can get through, that our air defense will be able to do, as Rebecca Grant said there. And then when these are the people that believe that in the Pentagon, and then they're briefing the President of the United States, he says stuff like this. Supreme Leader today said that U.S. attack could spark a regional war, giving you responsibility. Why wouldn't he say that? Of course you can say that. But we have the biggest, most powerful ships in the world over there, very close, couple of days. And hopefully we'll make a deal. If we don't make a deal, then we'll find out whether or not he was right. So you see, Trump sounds very cocky there. Yeah, we'll see if he's right about causing a regional war, because he's being told on the inside, not by the Rebecca Grants. But when he hears Rebecca Grant saying the same thing some of his generals are telling him, that can lead to some really bad decisions. Yeah, it can. But what can I say? I mean, But you're saying the realities are take all the hyperbolic comments off all the there is a yes, there is a model. And we look at first, you don't have to go into differential equations and models, which are based on that. You go to the simple arithmetic, prosperity guardian. How successful was the United States Navy essentially repelling backward, from the 1960s, those missiles and drones of Houthis, for crying out loud. Houthis, these are tribes in the mountains. And look what happened. Essentially, Houthis imposed their basically conditions on this choke point. And that's it. United States Navy was essentially driven out of it. Right now, the Roosevelt Carrier Battle Group is way out of the range because they're afraid of the Iranian-assumed anti-shipping missiles, which Iran has. And I think, so they do have it, not just subsonic missiles. They have supersonic missiles. And evidently, they are pretty good. I'm talking about anti-shipping missiles, and they have a range. So whatever happens there, and again, nobody knows what Iran has poor Pentagon generals. We saw their competence in 2023. It was United States which planned this. These are people who would be laughed out at the company level because they do not understand what real war is. They don't understand what sustainment is. They don't understand what strategy is. They are not taught this in the U.S. military educational facilities, be it United Academy at the West Point, or let alone the General Staff and Command College in Leavenworth, Kansas. They simply cannot teach it because they will have to come out and admit, as real American officers like David Glantz and Jonathan House stated, who were in charge of the same, like Colonel Lester Groh in charge of the Soviet military and Russian military department in Kansas, that it was Soviet Union which won the World War II. I mean, in Europe, period, you know, and so they cannot go out because the whole house of cards of this mythology, you know, for some reason find this fighting force which loses all of its wars has been actually perpetrated and established for the last 80 years. And then you look at this and you have to come up and say, guys, you do not even understand what you are dealing with technologically. And now when they see this today, I already posted the video, a slaughter of the High Memor. I mean, you know what? I read today the report from this Clowns Really Center for Strategic and International Studies about how Russians run out of missiles. Again, now Chinese supply it. You know, these people, I mean, they are delusional. And the only thing I can explain it as was the case when the Soviet Union collapsed. There were a number of the Soviet military officers ranging from the U junior ranks to the obviously marshal level, like, for example, Marshall, who committed suicide because they couldn't, you know, see this. You know, it was the issue of the also mental breakdown of seeing the basically your work of lifelong work, you know, basically collapse. Same is happening right now in Pentagon. They sense it, but they cannot admit, guys, you're not even in the same league you lost. They cannot understand how badly they lost the arms race. Russians already openly mock, you know, American officers or whatever, the NATO people who come down. Listen, Ben Hodes, I'm still waiting for Ben Hodges confirming when he's going to debate me. You know, but the point is that you look at Kellogg, you look at Ken, they are memes in Russia. They laugh at them. They mock them. This is the worst. Russians would have never mocked Eisenhower. They admired him. Okay, they would never have mocked Georgie Marshall. They won't mock, obviously, Norm Schwarzkopf. God, you know, God bless his soul. But they mocking this people. They mock this Pentagon. They mock this. Look at the background of this Mr. Casey, who is the chairman of the Chief of Joint Chiefs of Staff. The guy is like, he, you know what, Gasimov would look at him, you know, like a flea. And the fact that, oh, yeah, I know how to fly F-16. All right, fine. Yeah. Have you ever encountered S-300V4? No, of course not. So, and people do not understand. They don't know how far they are behind. Well, see, and Andre, you hit the nail on the head right there. The real problem, they don't understand. And you say a lot of the people in the Pentagon are starting to realize this. I don't think they do. Maybe there's a few. There are some in there. I know for a certain that there are some, but not very many. Most of them don't realize it. And because of their lack of belief or lack of understanding, maybe is a better way to put it, of course, President Trump is going to be hearing a lot of that advice. But that's also what underscores this comment yesterday by Lindsey Graham. I think it's a defining moment in his presidency. Ronald Reagan went to the Berlin Wall and he said, tear down this wall. He didn't say, could you make it lower? When asked about what the protesters should do, President Trump said, keep protesting. Help is on the way. If this regime is still standing the day after, if we pull the plug, will be 100 years of chaos. I have every confidence that President Trump will do what he promised to the people. Help is on the way. Keep protesting. If this regime falls, Hamas, Hezbollah, the hoodies, they all go. It'd be the biggest change since the fall of the Berlin Wall. But here's one thing I know. Donald Trump is Ronald Reagan plus in my mind. Venezuela, soon Cuba. The one thing you can't do as president. Talk like Reagan and act like Obama. See, we know that Gary plays that warning sign there before we have Lindsey Graham up because people understandably, kind of twitch at that kind of thing. But here's the thing, though. He believes that stuff. He is so emphatic about doing this because he thinks that the results in Iran will be the same as they were in Venezuela, that you can just go in with impunity and do whatever you want. There's nothing that Iran can do. He thinks it's going to be June last year when we went in with the so-called Operation Midnight Hammer and virtually nothing was done. He thinks that's because they couldn't do anything more. Is he wrong? Of course he is wrong. And he's JAG. Not that he's really ever subjected himself to any kind of danger. He's a lawyer, okay? And he's war-monger and most likely very corrupt. But he doesn't understand things. He looks at it as a lawyer, president law, you know. So it happened once, then we can start projecting those things down the road. No, it doesn't work like this. Iran, unlike Venezuela, actually Iran is the militarily capable nation, and it is actually tough nation. Everybody forgets they withstood Iraq, which was supported by the half of the world, including Soviet Union and the United States. And guess what? They held their own against them, you know. And so what can I say can exist in his alternative universe or whatever the universe he exists in. But yeah, that's the people, again, look attentively at U.S. Congress. Most of them are political scientists or lawyers. And how can you explain to any of them what real war is? They wouldn't understand the first thing about the engineering aspect of all that technological aspect. They believe in their own. And again, you know, this is ridiculous. I mean, hey, if you're looking at the president, here's the war record of the United States, primarily losing all its wars. So if he wants to go in Iran, the country with the population of 90 million people with the terrain, which is insane. It's not Iraq, you know? And so there is a lot of people there who do not like Americans. So sure, he can try but it's all political games. Reality is that after what has been demonstrated in Israel and how thought, let alone PAC-3Es, failed miserably together with all the other, you know, the so-called Israeli air defense systems, which in reality are American ones by Boeing and Raytheon. And so if he wants to try it, obviously he's more than welcome. But he should be very, again, doesn't apply to people like Graham. He also, let me ask you, regardless of what he thinks, what do you think, militarily speaking, looking at just the fundamentals, if the United States attacks Iran in any capacity and they respond back and they hit, we'll say Alud or any of these other bases that are in the area, the naval area at Bahrain, what would happen? What do you think would be the result on the ground? American casualties, and then Israel will be destroyed. Or nearly destroyed. That's pretty much what is going to happen. And the issue here is how they can basically preserve the U.S. Navy's assets in the area. Obviously, United States has Tomahawks, and many people do not understand. United States has about 2,500 Tomahawks in general. It's the Block 4 and Block 5, which is still, I mean, it's a long range. It's about 2,000 kilometers. But the point is, for the country like Iran, 2,000 Tomahawks are nothing, you know. And so they can still hit some political leadership. But the moment they begin to fly, there will be really, really serious repercussions for the liberal and fifth column in Iran. And after that, we might have only the hardening of the regime, if you wish, because even if they kill James, okay, so what is going to happen? Well, he becomes a martyr, and Iranian people, they're courageous. I mean, they will fight back. How that will be happening on the tactical operational level, I, of course, do not know. The only thing I can sit here and basically compare are the combat capabilities. United States compares not so much combat capabilities as much as the ability to basically inside fifth column and buy out some people, traders, like it happened with Venezuela, who will sell them, you know, regime or specific president or what have you, or political thought. So that's probably in work. But do not forget that the riots, which are the so-called protesters, in reality, it's, you know, inspired sabotage by Israel and United States, failed. And that suddenly changes the calculus, so to speak, of the events in the region. And again, Iran is a huge country, and it's 90 million population. You cannot just hit Iran and get out, you know. So even there, this famous, you know, yeah, I destroyed nuclear program of Iran, which now needs to be destroyed again. Remember when they flew this B-21? Obviously, it was settled between Iranians and Americans that, okay, let's drop some bomb and show, okay, wash our hands and get out. That's not going to fly if they really start attacking Iran. And I'm talking about the standoff weaponry, and then after that, I don't know. So it's difficult to predict. And again, I still do not have full understanding of the Iran's combat capabilities. Nobody does, even some. We saw, how CIA failed time after time with, especially with the special military operation. It's one of the most, shameful or, unbelievable event how they failed. And so we have to wait and see. I am not in the position. I'm not fair. Fair enough. Fair enough. Listen, in the last few minutes we have here one other issue that has relations with Russia in our hemisphere, and that is with Cuba, because for various reasons, whether it was Rubio or Trump or just the anti-Castro lobby that still exists in Miami area, they are saying that they want to crush and destroy the government of Cuba, even if it takes all year. They say they want to cut off oil. They basically want to have an oil embargo and just destroy the communist government in Cuba. Russia, what does Russia think about? What does Russia's play on that? And do you think that the United States can succeed short of military action to take the government of Cuba down? I'm not sure what Russia has to do with Cuba. Obviously, Cuban-Russian relations, while still are viable relations, and they exist, but it's nowhere near what it was used to be during the Soviet times. And so once the Soviet Union collapsed, obviously their situation changed dramatically. And especially when Russians removed their radio, basically electronic warfare and listening outpost at Lurs. So there was no real basing of Russian Navy or Soviet Navy anymore there, unlike it was during the Cold War. So it's difficult for me to say. I know that Zahara mentioned it in a matter of fact that, oh, Russia will not abandon Cuba. But the point is that it's all still has to be reviewed within the larger framework of what United States and Russia negotiate. And Russians know where, and at what point United States are. That's the other thing. Can they remove regime? Probably. I don't know. Again, it's very difficult to say because this whole insanity is driven by Rubio, who is settling accounts, period. Simple as that. The guy is a Cuban of Cuban descent. He is Neil Khan. And so whatever he has in mind, and Trump obviously is not in the position to kind of cross him or stop him from doing things. But then again, it's classic Trump administration. Nobody knows what they are doing, And so can they? Probably, but I don't know. It's difficult for me to say. I'm no specialist in the region. Would Russia be willing to not use military power, but like economic power would? Hey, if the United States cuts off the Venezuelan oil, would Russia consider keeping them alive, or is that something that Russia just wouldn't put any resources behind? Difficult for me to say, honestly. You need to really, it's the huge logistical, route, if you wish. It takes a long time to deliver anything to Cuba, and Russia is preoccupied now with the Eurasian affairs primarily. So will Russia do something again? Zahara stated that Russia will not abandon Cuba. We'll see. I don't know what it means because I'm not privy to the essentially the decisions on the level of the foreign ministry. I know that there are some people who want to support Cuba, no doubt about it. And so we'll have to wait and see. Russians obviously can, it's not going to be Cuban Missile Crisis. Okay, I don't think so. We don't have this circumstances anymore. It's completely obsolete paradigm. And so some delivery of oil, maybe, I don't know. Other than that, Russia can do very little to support Cuba, honestly, in present situations. So difficult for me to judge. And again, I'm no specialist in the Latin America and Caribbean basin, so to speak, other than the purely Neville effects. It's just to me as an American, it's just embarrassing that the big juggernaut of the United States wants to use its power to crush a little tiny neighbor who poses a threat to no one. Yeah, just embarrassing on that route. But in any case, listen, we really appreciate you coming on Day and providing such clarity, especially on the what may happen militarily in the Iranian situation here. I don't think a lot of people are aware of that in the United States, that Iran is not as weak as commonly projected to be. And let's hope we don't have to find out. But we appreciate you coming on today. Thank you so much. My pleasure. And as a reminder there, Smoothie X12. Andre has all kinds of great ideas and great points and things to talk about, especially as with the European stuff, as he said. Go to Smoothie X12 and you can find more of him there. In the meantime, we thank you guys for being with us today. Always a pleasure to have you with us, and we will look forward to seeing you on podcast, Spotify, Podcast Addict, anywhere you get your podcast. You can find us there as well. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Daniel Davis Deep Dive.